Good morning Europe, good afternoon Middle East, and good evening Asia. Welcome here to the 5th Global Leaders Roundtable out of Dubai. This one is out of Dubai, live for Dubai, super fantastic. It's the 5th one. And today's topic is COP26, from public talk to government's walk. We have a fantastic lineup. We have different people in the building industry connecting on a super interesting topic. How can we, as a private sector, help the governments to realize the ambitions around the climate change? COP stands for Conference of Parties. It is an initiative which is running annually, started in 1988 by the United Nations, and is part of the Climate Global Conference. Now, last year, the COP26 happened in Scotland, right? In 2 years from now, the COP28 will happen in Dubai. So how can we as a private sector move the needle? How can we really help to understand what are the challenges the governments are facing today? What are the priorities, how they see them? And how can we make sure, as a private sector, that we can really help? The beauty is that also during the COP20s, happening of course in the past 2 decades, there was also something called the program called the Road to Zero. The Road to Zero is a kind of roadmap where different companies have basically signed a manifest to contribute to the improvement in the climate change. The interesting thing is, out of the 9 industries, the building construction is also one of the industries. So how can 20% of the architects around the world contribute to this move in the climate change? How can 20% of building companies, building automation companies, lighting companies help really to make this difference?
Right. Now, let's make it a bit more granular. Right, today in Dubai, right, Asaf? So can you tell us a bit more what's happening here in Dubai?
Thanks, Vikas. Very interesting. Sustainable buildings are not new to Dubai. There are many projects in Dubai which have already happened in different applications, different segments. To name a few, we have the Mazda City in Abu Dhabi. We have the Dubai Sustainable City. We have the Parliament in Abu Dhabi. Many more in different, even in health, we do have a Sheikh Khalifa Medical City. But having said this, I should also go a bit detail into one of the interesting projects which is under construction, which is one of the leading projects which will be over, will lay a new foundation for the future to come. It's the DEWA headquarters, the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority headquarters. Once completed in 2023, it will be the tallest, smartest government building in the region. So that's quite interesting for Dubai. It will be a net zero building. That means that the energy produced or used in the building will be less than the energy produced for the complete building. The building will also use less than 50% of the water which the normal other buildings produce of similar size. Having used, it's also a LEED platinum building and also a silver in well building standards. So a perfect mixture of energy efficiency and well building standards. The building also has state-of-the-art IoT technology. It's one of the smartest building. It uses the highest smart BMS system, which really helps us to have like 50% less clean energy than any other building. It also has one of the biggest solar arrangement in the building compared to any other one. Having said this, these initiatives are not new to Dubai. It's completely in line with Dubai strategy for 2050. It's also in line with Dubai initiative for 2021. So these initiatives for sure are leading a new path for Dubai, which is making Dubai and UAE like a leading global player in sustainable markets. To name, it also, I think most importantly for me, it also protects the right of future generations to come to have a clean, safe, and sustainable future. With these thoughts, and I think we have experts today in our panel, I hand it over to Oliver so that we can have a great discussion on how public and partners, public and private sector can have much more innovative collaborations in future. Over to you, Oliver.
Thank you. Thank you. Warm welcome. We are here live in Dubai for the 5th roundtable organized by TRILUX and MPP Synergy. And the theme of the day is from public talk to government walk for after COP26. So our panelists are Engineer Moza Al-Naimi from the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, and Engineer Moza is in charge of demand and productivity, and she's involved in a number of mega projects. Mr. Faisal is responsible for facility management at DAFSA, the Dubai Airport Free Zone Authority. Philippe Lodi is an architect and an associate director of UN Studio. UN Studio is a leading architectural firm based out of the Netherlands. Mrs. Amel Chadli is working for Schneider Electric, responsible for business development and strategy for Middle East and Africa. And finally, Joachim Geiger, board member of TRILUX Group and chief commercial and marketing officer based out of Germany. So the first question today I would like to direct to Engineer Mozza. Could you give us some insights about government priorities and the government agenda contributing to the reduction of carbon emission? You know, what are concrete steps taken by the government to start putting in motion the good resolution of COP26?
Definitely, okay. So, hello everyone. Thank you for having me, and I'm sorry for the dramatic entrance. I was a little bit late. So, firstly, actually, I think everyone was familiar with the energy strategy, UAE energy strategy, which was launched in 2017, and also the UAE water security strategy, also launched in 2018. The main idea is to start with a long-run strategy that consists of many sectors or many projects with let's say a very much futuristic KPIs to be achieved in 2050. So the main idea is to focus on the top consumer sectors we have in UAE. We have, for example, the industry. We have also the building sector, building environment sector. We have the agriculture, which consumes more than 50% of water resources here in UAE. And the last one is the transportation sector. So what we did as a government, we prioritized our targets to achieve the reduction in energy, 40% reduction by 2050, and 51 reduction in water by also 2050. So this is what we start off by, let's say, managing the national level project or program with initiatives that focused on each emirate, let's say by Northern Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and also to give each sector a number of initiatives that will lead into the reduction in energy and water use. Of course, all of this will not it will not happen without the collaboration between the private sector and the public sector. So this is our strategy, or let's say the steps we targeted as a government.
So okay. Take DAFSA, for example. DAFSA is one of these sector, and 40% energy reduction by 2050. Mm-hmm. And I suppose, meanwhile, you increase the number of buildings, the number of users. So did you have also concrete projects and any idea how you're going to realize this?
Hello, everyone. My name is Faisal Abloushi. I am Senior Director, Dubai Airport Free Zone. I would like to highlight an important point here that we in Dubai Airport Free Zone have been working hard and trying to reduce our carbon footprint. We have a lot of office building. We host many companies within Dubai Airport Free Zone. They have their regional office. So we have an old building which is more than 25 years old, and we have recent building constructed. So the challenge was to retrofit and make sure that the old building would be green like the existing new buildings. And the past almost 7 years, we have taken many initiatives in trying to renovate and retrofit these buildings in 3 main areas. As you know, the office building consumes energy in AC, which is the major consumption, which is about 60%. And the second part comes in lighting, which is about 25%. And the third part is the power, which is consumed by the occupants of the building, which is about 25%. So in the past years, we learned a lot, and we have been through many initiatives. And we did the optimization of the major consumption, which is AC. We implemented, we have a water centrifugal chillers, and we have implemented a demand flow-based system. It's a smart, efficient system whereby it resulted in saving about 30% of the AC consumption, and it's considered one of the most efficient systems, consuming about 0.7 kilowatt hour per ton. And we focus on the second area, which is lighting, trying to get rid of the traditional lightings, the halogen and the fluorescent, and try to convert them to LED. And also in water, we are trying to put the technology like recycling water in terms of TSE water, and in terms of gray water. And in the new buildings, we are trying to have a gray water system instead of draining the water. And we managed to save about 50% in the past 6 years. So our consumption of electricity, for example, was for air-conditioned area about 183 kilowatt hour per annum, and now we managed to reduce it to 100 kilowatt. So we are now having a new challenge to try to reduce more and achieve the target of COP28, inshallah. And we look forward to work with our partners and technology providers. And I would like to highlight the second part, which Oliver was highlighting, is that how the private sector can help us and achieve this objective. I can give example about the BMS. The BMS system has been a very helpful tool for us in managing our buildings and trying to monitor and ensure that the consumption is at optimum level. But right now, I can give examples of some challenges. Is the part of BMS system, there is an energy management system. This energy management system, until now, we believe needs more attention to make it more user-friendly. Now, the challenge we are facing that these softwares needs energy special engineers. So we hope that in future, those softwares will be more user-friendly, that a normal engineer can be able to just view it and extract the information and make the analysis. So this is one area. The other challenge we are facing is that when you have a BMS, you have to integrate with other subsystems, like lighting and other elevators and other systems. So the integration is the main challenge. I think the private sector has to be more collaborative in terms of working together, the BMS vendors with the subsystem experts and manufacturers, and trying to create a standardized data so that the integration will be more smooth, no complication and no issues during implementation. That's the second area. And the one important area...
Maybe because it's a long list already, so I propose we come back to the... Because, you know, what I highlight is 50% energy saved, but we need to save another 40%. Sometimes BMS, and I think it's at the heart of also your business, Amel, sometimes not so end-user friendly or easy to operate, and also integration with lighting. So I don't know also if architecture has a role to play here in something that is integrated, easy to operate, and save another 40%. What do you have to say?
Okay, so we will start with the integrated BMS. Yes, for sure. In fact, it's a very good point, and we have to work in order to have an architecture which is open. And this is really what our added value as a Schneider. So EcoStructure, our platform, and our technology is scalable and open. So the goal is if we are with one client, for sure we will help him to integrate our product, but it doesn't mean that he has to change the full asset in order to be able to work with Schneider. So this is the point that we are taking, we are proposing to our client.
And does that work also for retrofitting? Because you make that retrofitting point quite clear. You say you have buildings 25-year-old, and if I'm correct, I think 70% of the building today will still be standing in 2050 when you have to reach your target. So does that also work for retrofitting?
Yes, exactly. As you rightly said, so the building of tomorrow exists already for the majority. And our solution, again, this is the reason why they are open and scalable. So we can change a part of the asset. We can also do maintenance, and we can upgrade it. So this technology and this ability, it's already existing.
And how do you integrate? For example, lighting. When is the integration done, and how you make sure that this is seamless and easy to operate for the end user with different systems?
Well, let me say that the integration, in the best case, so in a perfect world, the integration starts from point zero. So the integration starts when we together create the concept and come up with the ideas. So integration should be done really right from the beginning to come up with the right solution, and then with an easy, seamless integration. So that will be, of course, the best world, the perfect world. But also depending whether we start with a new build or with an update refurbishment project, and of course we have different work streams to follow. But basically, it's always best if we sit together very early, go creative, find solutions, and then together make the implementation for the best possible outcome.
And do you have to be an engineer to operate the BMS, or are there solutions to make it, done easily by a normal maintenance manager or by the users?
To implement it, for sure, we need engineering. Then to maintain it, we have what we are calling field services engineering, who are specialized on it. So there is two different ways of working. Either it's in-house and our client could maintain them, and we are working in order to upskill. In fact, it's services that we are giving for our clients. Or for sure, we are proposing also maintenance contract, which is like an insurance, for the BMS, and then this will help to maintain and to increase the life of the asset.
I'd like to come back on the other point, and that's both of you mentioned 40% saving, but they haven't been idle, right? They have already implemented the low-hanging fruit. Probably they are already with LED lighting, so and now they need to go one step further. So I don't know, Filippo, do you have solution or ideas for this, and how do we do that?
The way that we approach any of these kind of challenges from the beginning is, let's say, aside from kind of strong partnerships and kind of value engineering the solution from an optimization point of view, is to work with the user, with the end user in mind at the end. So, and that requires a level of awareness for the end user to be able to identify what it means using less water or using less electricity. So I have a very interesting example applied in an hotel chain in Europe, where they installed sort of a very small device in the shower. It's bare, and when you use the shower, the ice underneath the bare melts in a little display. So, and when the ice is melted, you should have finished your shower. So, and that helps the user to understand the quantity of water used. So, if we could design spaces and buildings that bring more awareness to the end users, then we can achieve a little bit more of those goals that are less visible from a kind of a, they become more humanized. That's how our approach to.
And what's your view on this? Because like in Germany, for example, that has been already years and years that people are, the awareness about climate change is very high. Now, is it also the same in UAE? You know, it's
it's a very interesting point because I think maybe 3 years back we did a survey to measure the community awareness, how much they understand the concept of sustainability and energy saving or water saving. We choose 5 segments of the community: students, families, workers, even the tourist was part of the survey, and also the employees, since we have a lot of commercial building and everyone is spending a lot of time in office. So the funny part that everyone was aware with the concept of sustainability. I know the sustainability and I know how to reduce my consumption, but the willing to change the attitude was not there. So on a scale of 1 to 5, it was only 1. People are aware. So previously I mentioned the national demand side management and the sectors we are trying to target. Actually, at the same time, when we designed the demand side management, we designed an awareness campaign for those targeted segments. There is a lot of activities, a lot of programs for each one of them. We want to, by 2030, to change from aware to aware and able to change. I'm able to put my decision and work upon it. And of course, the idea of the small devices on the water showers or the stars rating system for ACs or TVs or dishwasher and any equipment in the market was part of this project. I mean, we introduced these items or rating system to people to know if you're going to market to buy something, be aware that you can buy for a little bit more money, but something can last for more years and can consume less power. So we are part of this awareness program. So it's very interesting you mentioned this point. Yeah.
So actually that touched back to the topic you shared during your keynotes, right, about the individual level and the social level and the industry level. So you probably also have some experience, right, in this journey.
Yeah, and I think what is also very beautiful to mention in relationship to how the kind of industry and government and the kind of user level need to kind of cooperate together is that they all need to kind of sit at the same table, and it's very challenging considering that as individual we're trained to have to be more individualistic. So we all have an individual phone. We are sitting on an individual chair. We have an individual car. How do we create a mindset for sharing? And that is a fundamental aspect of it that in the industry is needed.
Do you have other examples of like cooperation between your companies and the government and the public to work in that direction?
Yeah, we have a lot of examples. So as we are in Dubai, I will take the example of Dubai. We were honored to be nominated by the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology as a partner for the sustainability. So we are helping, in fact, the ministry to assess the maturity of the sustainability for the companies. It's a real collaboration and cooperation, and we think that it's part of our duty. We are doing business, but we need to be aware about our planet, and we need to bring this awareness to other companies. As we are a multinational, we have to lead by example, and we have to work with our companies, big, small, local, multinational, in order to bring this awareness. This is one of the examples, and we have so many others.
And I think, if I may add, I think this is an important point to mention that between, I mean, the technology on the one side, what could be done, the awareness, both is changing so much in these days that I think the link between both to be successful is really the flexibility on the one side, that the systems, building management is helping in a great way with great concepts, so the flexibility to adapt to the change of the user behavior, that's the one thing, and really the transparency to bring all the parties together to have a holistic view on what needs to be achieved. So I think this is exactly the success story, what we need to build.
Mr. Faisal, you had a long list of requests or wishes, and you still had a few ones to mention. What else? What do you expect from this gentleman and the industry in general to help achieving your target?
Besides talking about the technology and about BMS and air conditioning, I think there is one important thing to highlight is that in the Middle East, our climate is different. And my opinion, that technology providers are not giving attention to this part, my opinion. Maybe, I don't know, the standards when they follow to create products and whether they consider about our climate. I think this is a very important area. The reason I'm highlighting this is if you look at the weather in UAE and the Middle East, it's increasing. And the reason I think is because of radiation. And this radiation happening because of the surface of the roof of the building and surrounding us, whether the roads and the bridges, is all, it's not reflecting the heat. And this heat is going in this material and causing, temperature going high, and then there is more power consumption and more, I think this area is important to cover. Is the first area is the radiation and the effect of the radiation on the surface. And the other part is the glass curtain walls of the buildings and the penetration of heat and U value. I think this is also an important area. Maybe somehow this is not related to the BMS system, but I think if there is R&D in these areas, will have an important role. And I would like to mention about the architectural role. Rarely you find architects giving attention to the sun direction, north and east, when they design the building. In my opinion, this has also a major impact on the energy consumption when they design the buildings. So when the architect will consider the rotation and the sunrise and the, so it will have a major impact as well in the consumption. So those traditional things, I think, will also impact. And what Engineer Moza highlighted is that now this new target, already I believe most organizations, most establishment already worked hard to reduce their energy consumption. So achieving this new target is challenging. So we have to think outside the box. And we have, I think we have to have more initiatives than we had before, because as you mentioned about the quick wins, we need to think about new ideas, whether coming from the design perspective, architectural, or whether maybe coming from the technology providers.
So Filippo, when we go around in Dubai, there is still a lot of glass and concrete, right? So are there better ways for the future to design cities to reduce this radiation and heat which is created by architecture, actually?
There is a lot of kind of research, I think, done from a kind of material technology point of view that can definitely help that. And I think we have developed a lot of these solutions in the years. One example was the coolest white. So it's a kind of a new paint that has two characteristics. It's super white, and it has the highest coefficients of heat reflectance. So it is a very simple technology, very democratic, and very cheap and applicable. And these are some of the things we like to develop, but we also think that it is so the material technologies on one hand, and the other one is how do we create the right processes to integrate these new materials in a refurbishment process, because that is the real challenge we see. And I know we have been doing in the last year a lot of research from our office in Europe, as one of the demands from a European sort of point of view is that there is a lot of renovation to be done, and the majority of the work that we will have to do in the future is to renovate to achieve those goals. So how do we efficiently renovate? And one research that we are currently doing is called beam speed, and it has to do with the idea of using new design processes that link all the kind of technology of like building information modeling, so taking sensors and harvesting data from it to calibrate the kind of digital models to then create better solutions, better changeable and adaptable solutions for the future. So they kind of create a bridge between the physical and the digital, and it's kind of a digital alter ego, such as the kind of digital twins type. And the connection of these new processes with new materials, I think, is really where we can go beyond what we've done in the past, but really looking at creating really intelligent solutions for the existing built environment.
Now, talking about intelligent solution, I read the figures which triggered me a bit, that with smart solution you can save 70% more energy. Now, looks good, but okay, is that real, and how does that work?
I think that's a question to both of us, I would say, because actually you connect the products we deliver to systems. So yes, and I would even dare to say it could be even more than the 70%. If we talk just about connectivity, I think we could already reach that figure. So there is one efficiency growth by the light engine itself, if we talk about lighting. So there you have a significant increase of efficiency that's already known and used, so we are happy about this. Secondly, if you do connect systems, you have a much higher share, and I guess it's fair to say the 70 is a realistic figure. If you do this even smart, so if you connect systems which go even beyond lighting, you even have the possibility to have a much higher share. So just imagine if the entire building information system, if the management of the building learns and has an artificial knowledge from all the data we bring in. So there are cases, this is from the elevator business, but this is applicable to any other case, I believe, to learn how the utilization of the elevator is, knowing when peak times are, when slower times are, and use and manage the traffic accordingly. And the same is possible for light. So if the building, if the room knows, understands, and detects, here is a meeting going on, or here is a creative session going on, or there is nobody in the room, and adapts itself with the maximum comfort and the highest efficiency without any manual work, then you even have a higher figure than the 70. And this is true for outdoor lighting as well. What we talk is just in indoor, which has a major leverage. And just imagine you do the same thing outdoor if you could just have the light where cars are traveling, and you could dim down where no car is traveling, have a lower intensity. So you have a saving of light pollution, so you have less light emitted where nobody needs. And at the same time, you could increase the efficiency and the safety in the public area. So you can give direction, you can lead the way, you can set highlights, and even support traffic if you may reroute or avoid traffic jams. So the nice thing of connecting the systems and coming to a mutual concept is we could go sustainable, we could save money and energy, and at the same time do things better with a higher customer benefit. And I think that's a magic combination.
If it's so simple, 70%, and that, why is that not happening faster? Is it awareness, technology, initial costs?
If I may, the 70% depends on the building. We are not saving 70% each time. So, in fact, it depends on the building, on the architecture of the building, on the quality of the power, and on the usage. So, if we have a very efficient building, we will not achieve the 70%. If you have technical losses at the arrival of the power, for sure, usually we have about 20% of the losses. So just treating by the power quality, you will save the 20%. Then will depend on the connectivity in order to see what is the habit and what we have to improve. Now, when we are going to the roadblock, why, if it's so easy, why we are not doing it? I truly believe that it's a question of awareness. It's a question of CapEx through OpEx. And we are changing the mentality. And what I believe also is a time to bring a new business model. So everyone starts to hear about energy as a services. Because if we take just the example of Dubai, now we start to have buildings that are old, about 20, 25 years. So we have to think about them, and we have to think about this brownfield. And for the during few years, in fact, when we were talking about the efficiency, it was the question to the operator, because it's the one who was, spending in OpEx. Today, with this awareness, having a green building will bring a value as an asset. So we achieve something which is bringing the landlord with the operator and switching the debate from the CapEx to the OpEx by bringing a new model. So it's very complex.
So now let's go in your direction, right? Because I hear two things here. You say first, depends on the building, which means that there is an audit, an assessment of existing building that needs to be done. So my first question is, do you know if your buildings are, where they stand? Are they energy efficient or not? And how do you do your assessment? And second is, this kind of business model, like, is it interesting for DAVSA or, for the Ministry of Energy here to have, instead of investing in a solution, is, okay, you say, well, you run it, you put your equipment, and I pay every month, and you take care of the energy bill, but it has to be more efficient. So assessment and different business model. How does that look for you?
Okay, for the beginning, I think, as you know, Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure are responsible for constructing the new federal building among UAE. I'm talking about schools, hospitals, even roads and dams. So we do have our perspective for the new under construction buildings or any product. At the same time, we are responsible for managing almost 2,900 assets already exist. Not only 25 years ago, maybe 40 years ago in UAE. So we do have our annual plans for the inspection and preventive maintenance and annual maintenance and even the demolish for afterlife. So actually we are aware where is our buildings in the if we are talking about the for technology wise, if there is a BMS system, if the light fittings are LED or not, if there is any good generation of electricity, if there is a potential to add a PV or a rooftop small scale solars. We do have this. The idea is how to accelerate this process, how to change it, how to digitalize this process in ministry. And the other part of the idea, if the problem is the financial to maintain, I think my colleague mentioned that you're already ahead of us in the retrofit. Actually, this is the new market we are trying to enter as a ministry, because we own the 2,900 buildings. I need to retrofit these buildings, but until when the government will pay the money for this, for the annual maintenance every year for all of these buildings. So what we are trying to do now is to go to the shared investment with the private sectors. If you can study the situation of each building, give me the solution. You can implement your, you can put your products, and annually you can take your money from the electricity bills, from the saving. But you know, to enter this market, it's very risky. You need to know if the investors will stay with you, because it's a long. I mean, you need more than 5 years to 9 years or 10 years to get back your investment. So who will take the risk? If the company is there, if it's closing, if the technology they are implementing is good enough to gain to gain back the investment you put. At the same time, you have the electricity bills. I'm managing the building, but I don't own the money to pay for the for electricity and water consumption. It's up to the user of the building. And there is also Ministry of Finance, there is the stakeholders, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of you need to put all of this in the loop.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Yes,
that's very difficult.
It's very
Two different
difficult.
pockets,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
for sure.
So you have to come up with a new business model. You have to come up with a new financial model to do that. We are trying to do that 2017, and we still fighting for that. I think we do have, let's say, we have a positive, some positive points. The cabinet's the Prime Minister office, they are supporting this kind of projects. So we will try to do that starting from this year. But the first, I think we need to finalize the policy, the strategy, the BBB manuals we need to fill. After that, it will be much easier for all the private sector companies to involve in this kind of projects.
In DAFZA, you have everything in the same hand, right?
Exactly.
So you don't have that problem of aligning different ministers, so you
So
can
I agree
decide.
with what Engineer Moses says. I think for them it's more challenging because there are different parties involved. But from our side, we have we are one organization, so we are dealing with each other in a very easy way. And as was highlighted, we do feasibility studies, and we look at the payback period, and we see if there are any indirect benefits as well. So we'll study it from all perspectives, and then we reach to a conclusion with our management about the value adding and the payback period. And what we do also, after implementing initiative, we have to monitor this initiative and record the saving, and then present it to the management to show how the performance is going, the investment. That's what's highlighted.
So what is a magical number for payback? From how many years do you say, okay, now we go?
To be honest, what I can see that different organizations have different targets. Now, if you look at the solar, the payback period, I think, is about 7 years. But if you look at the LED lightings, is from the fluorescent to LED, depending on the product, is 5 years. So the lighting is more attractive than the solar. But also it's a knowledge. It's a cumulative knowledge. When you implement solar, there are indirect costs involved in this. There are quick wins, for example. If you implement it in the roof, it's more easier than you implement it in a car park shed, for example, because you need to spend in the structure. So the payback period will change. And depending on your plan, the selection of the place and what strategy you follow, and the long-term plan you set. So,
do you have any experience in this new business model, and what kind of also payback time?
Yeah, we do actually, and I'm really happy to hear that we all, let's say, moving in the same direction, and I think it's already proven that this is exactly the right way to go. When I compare this to the European market, of course, which is a little bit easier calculation because our energy is higher in price, so the return calculation is more to our favor. So it means also in Europe, we find examples, and also we find projects where, let's say, in 5 years, we can amortize the upgrade and the refurbishment, the upgrade to another level of lighting. But secondly, I think it's very encouraging that the concepts and the principles we are working on, let's talk about sustainability, are in our favor in supporting your concepts, because from making an installation, a system sustainable, we will come to have it circular. And this is not only to refurbish, but also to reuse. That means if the capex will reduce because we do have a reuse of system, which we could upgrade, number one, the risk of the installed base is much lower. And the second use, let's say the second life, if you reuse components, minimizes the effort, the risk, and supports the payback. So I think everything now really nicely fits together, shortens that payback time, and helps also maintaining and improving the value of the building and also the value for the user.
Filippo, do you see from your point of view circularity and reuse material? Is it a dream or is it a trend?
It is reality in the sense that the idea of being able to reuse materials or reuse solution into it and kind of reinvest them. We are now currently kind of working on a sort of facade mining project where we are basically utilizing harvesting materials for refurbishment of other facades and taking those, so mining them to build a new facade. And that is a very simple circular reuse concept. Now the struggle to that is not dissimilar to what I heard just now in terms of who is going to take the responsibility, the financial responsibility to de-risk the quality value of that model, and how do we, how can we create new form of economies because of that? And what we see is that the intentions are superb, the possibilities are there, and the industry is there, but then we miss still some links into the execution of these beautiful ideas, and they have to go through new financial models, and that is one of the kind of key qualities into it that we see missing. But for the simplicity of the execution, so the materiality of that is all very, very tangible, very visible, and there are very beautiful cases to share of those applications. So,
Amel, same perception, or you find also? I mean, is Schneider Electric into also pay-per-use and this kind of business model? And you find it easy, difficult?
It's difficult, to be honest with you. On the paper, the business model is very easy because it shows the payback. In the reality, as it was described, as we have a lot of stakeholders, it's difficult to put it in place, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible, and we have great examples. If I may, I can give a big example in another region of the world was the airport of JFK, where we installed the microgrid and it's working. We have a county of Montgomery in the US after the storm, where it was completely destroyed, and we rebuilt it as a sustainable city, and it's working with this model. In other regions of the world, we are working on it, so in Asia and here also.
It's interesting because maybe without storm, the project wouldn't take place, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, you see it, you have to, because of course, when you have to rebuild something, then it's different. In view of time, I think it's time to start taking some question, from the audience here. But we have hundreds of people dialing in from everywhere in the world. So yeah, let's switch a bit to a little question and answer for our panelist guests, and we'll take the first questions. Actually can't see because we are kind of, I would need sunglasses. So, Vikash, I will need your help to select a question either from the audience here or from, from our guest abroad.
Hi, my name is Faiz and I'm from BMTC. I'd like to ask Mr. Faisal and Engineer Moza that for the forthcoming buildings here, to save the energy, wouldn't it be okay if the air conditioning engineers are involved at the A stage? Because the building orientation, i.e. location with respect to sun, is the most important thing. Because the sun travels from east to west on the western side. If you have less windows, the heat load would be considerably less as compared to otherwise.
Okay. So I think this role has to be through the architect, while during design stage actually, to study the orientation and the machine location. And I totally agree with you that the involvement, earlier is the involvement, the better outcome will come in terms of not only energy, in terms of the satisfaction of the customer as well. I totally agree with you.
You can also combine with solar protection and so on. There are actually a number of ways, but indeed it's much more effective if it's foreseen already in the conception.
Yeah, already practiced particularly in America and other countries, South America, because the design engineers are involved at the A stage. That is how the energy saving happens.
Yep.
So the glass area, the windows in particular, are less on the western side.
Yeah.
That is how they're able to save about 15 to 18% of the total load,
Yes.
heat load.
That's true. And especially now, because most people are interested to have solar on their roof.
Yes.
So when you are involved from the beginning, you can allocate the machines in a proper, efficient way to
Absolutely.
have the additional space for solar.
Yes.
So,
Dear panel, there's also a question coming in online. Question addressed to Mrs. Amel. Are there any best practice you see in the cooperation between private sector and government, how to accelerate the process for climate change?
Yes, so for me, the question of sustainability is it's a common goal for everyone. So for sure, we need to have the collaboration, and I will join what was said previously. So the collaboration should be at the beginning, from the awareness by our communication, you know, in the private and in the public sector, to the concrete collaboration about the assessment, to bringing the new technology. I can give an example or best practice that we have right now in Africa, where you know, in terms of financing, they have more and more requirements in terms of sustainability. So we have services about consulting, auditing, and helping them to put in place a strategy. And we are very active also in this side. So this could be considered as a best practice also.
Question is directed toward the government officials, specifically as you mentioned about the energy rating on the consumer products and the other products. We often see that, you know, the cheap products are being sold without, to be very honest, without being regulated, and you know, while competing with something which is actually saving money for the society, not for the immediate the power, because the investment initially might be very low, but you know, the 5 dirham light versus the 50 dirham light, but the 50 dirham light is actually saving resources for the society. Why is there anything government doing specifically in those areas to curb those you know, inefficient, I would not say cheap, but inefficient products which are marketing themselves as an efficient product while not adhering to any standards? While we see a high standard products which we distribute, and then when they are compared with the low-end products, immediately the first idea is to go with the cheaper one. So is government doing something on those lines, apart from only the consumer electrical products or consumer appliances, to also to the lighting side and the other things? Because you can compare it with 1 dirham spotlight versus 50 dirham spotlight. The idea is very different. So is government doing something on that?
Yeah, actually, I think most of the companies who work with the ministry will suffer from the standards we are having. I mean, we are trying to reach our top. Saleh, how are you? Okay. Top company. We are trying to do, you know, in each tender, you will notice that there is a vendor list. There is like, and for each item, there is 3 alternatives. You will notice if you open any of our tenders, you will notice that there is a specific countries, specific standards for each line. And it's the hardest thing. We are trying to manage the balance between the money and the quality, but it's really hard. I don't want to mention countries, but you cannot compare bananas to orange. It's hard. So, but we do have our standards. We have Ministry of Industry, you mentioned before, Ministry of Industry. I think they are managing each item from where and what kind of standard, what kind of tests were done on this item before it entered the country, and if it's suitable for each kind of project or not. So, yeah, tell me.
We deal with government, so we know that the standards, what they set for their own contracts and own projects.
Correct.
But the idea is that the entire retail market, because 80% of the retrofitting happens through the retail market, not
Correct.
through the government or the authorities.
Correct.
So are there any regulations which are put by government that, you know, these are the products which cannot be used? Because it's not the government authorities or we suffer on those projects. We suffer actually on the retail side, because the retail side, there are no specific standards to monitor that which kind of lighting, which kind of equipments, which kind of electrical accessories would be sold. You know, and there the apple to banana comparison happens on a daily basis, not with these specific projects.
Yeah, but that's what ISMA, I think their name was ISMA before, but now it's Ministry of Industry and Technology. They are doing that for all kind of equipments, for any kind of markets. And at the same time, I think they are working on a new incentive program for all the manufacturers. So they can resolve these kind of issues you are talking about. Also, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned before, the demand side management. One of the main, I think it's a common initiative in each sector, is the equipment standards for all of the sectors, for industry, for transportation, even in oil and gas quality issues, and for agriculture. So it's a long run project. It's like a strategic project. The technology is changing every day. Equipment are changing every day. So it's really hard to resolve all of this in a short time. It will take time, but definitely it will be short. But it will be resolved.
Can I give my opinion on this? I think what example you've given, like for example, when the bidders will receive offers with different products, I think it's something positive, not negative, in my opinion. And it is you, the product supplier, role to explain to the client that, okay, my cost is, for example, 50% higher because of 1, 2, 3. And we keep this open as a client. So from our side, we do the evaluation and we go deep in detail, trying to distinguish between the products. But if we didn't find much substantial is there, that is not our mistake. But in my opinion, every supplier has to be smart and try to distinguish his product. If you believe that, for example, you have Apple or somebody has something else, not Apple, you have to prove this to the bidder. And this open market competition, I think it's positive, in my opinion.
Any views from the manufacturers? Is that, you know, do you see enough incentive to really push on the market some energy efficient devices? Should it be free or more regulated? Any maybe?
Well, I think generally having a free market and using that competition is good for the market. So that supports innovations and that supports also the commercial fit, of course. But of course, it's also right that it needs to fit for purpose. And I think in the times where we are, the purpose is not only to be the most, let's say, have the best commercial fit, it is also to have the best sustainable environmental fit and so on. So I think the KPIs, the criteria we are working on, they are becoming more and more. But of course, we as a supplier, as a manufacturer, as a partner, of course, we do take the challenge and says, yes, we can do it better, but still commercially okay, so better but cheaper, and still we need to take care that this is still the very best solution in regard of efficiency, use of quality of using, and also commercially and price-wise. That's for sure, and that challenge is definitely taken.
Yeah. I would say, because I heard something else in your question, the rules should be the same for everybody. Yeah. You shouldn't allow, indeed, to have some companies who can go under the radar screen and claim compliance and actually not achieving it, because this is actually killing a fair competition.
Yeah.
Right. So I suppose that was also behind your question, right? So, Vikash,
Yes,
are there
we
more
have
questions?
2 questions coming from over the globe. The first one is out of the UK. Let me simplify the question a little bit. You know, if it comes to refurbishment, but particular reuse of materials, repurposing of certain components, right? That sounds, of course, fantastic. It's absolutely the way forward. But at the same time, you know, it brings quite some complexity instead of simply replacing the product with a new one. So how do we overcome this challenge? What's your view?
Yeah.
I think I would like to highlight what refurbishment and using and recycling existing material, especially the structural material, the civil construction material. I can take example like D3. So I can see, I've been passed there through D3, and I can see they have a lot of artists. They are into artists. So, and they have the sense of responsibility in terms of sustainability and recycling. So I can see that they are trying to use the surplus material in a way to keep it like a monument or a display or something like. So this is one thing, I think, one area we can highlight. But as you mentioned, it's really challenging. We have old facility and we want to renovate, and it's really challenging to get use of the old material. I think maybe we need to give more attention to this, but then the question is, who should take this responsibility and what they can do? Right now, Dubai municipality is having a new tariff for construction waste. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this. And the tariff waste will increase, I don't remember how many times, but this will have a big impact in changing the behavior of the consumers soon. And maybe it will trigger for people to be more innovative in trying to find ways in reusing these. And I can sense this when I talk to the people in this industry. So,
yeah, if I may add to this from, let's say, from the manufacturer side or from the lighting side, I think to support this and to support recycling and reuse, we have 2 really magic leverages. The one thing, of course, is at the end the design of the luminaire, so that we are able to access parts which have wear and tear, exchange them, upgrade them, and that the design is accordingly. So a glued, finished, closed luminaire does not help you in going on recycling or refurbishment. This is number one. So this is also our responsibility as a manufacturer. So have a smart design which supports in the future recycling and reuse, number one. Number 2, and we touched on this topic already sometimes today, is data and transparency. So just imagine if we would know which numbers of luminaires in which environment and in which condition they are in this building, in this room, we would be much smarter and much easier and much more efficient in upgrading and making this circular. So if we would have a digital twin of the room and manage accordingly, perhaps even with predictive maintenance, that'll be fantastic. And then we are at high efficiency in refurbishment, reuse, recycling, and in all the regards towards sustainability and circular.
But Joachim, you shared the other day that there is actually a business case, right? That you can confirm that it makes sense economically.
Yes.
To actually take back luminaires and recycle them.
Yes, so we do have already projects in place where we agreed after the lifetime either of the building or of the luminaire, we'll take it back and we'll not only recycle but also reuse the components. So we are doing research, and I guess we'll talk about this later today as well in these sessions, that will investigate how is the product need to be designed to support the circular. But it's also a commercial and a service one. So we also have pay-per-use concepts and also the service and installation concepts, that it's really free of any activity and challenge and headache for the customer, that installing, servicing, paying only per use, and also returning to us is possible if it makes sense for the customer. But of course, it's a matter of the building, how it's been used, about the energy cost you have, and so on. So there are multiple
Yes.
variables in this calculation. But yes, there are very, very good examples in place how to operate and how to do this successfully.
Vikash, maybe we have time for one or two
sure,
more questions.
we can continue because the question is also interesting. This is an interesting one. It's more kind of sharing and to take your opinion on this one as well. In Germany, fall last year, after the elections, they have appointed a Ministry of Green, right? And this minister is really the connecting dot between the different departments to contribute to the next steps in the green evolution to take, with clear KPIs. Maybe Joachim, right, you're from Germany. What's your take on that? And how could we, any insights what you see in Germany already happening, how they organize there, and something we can learn from?
So this Ministry of Green actually is a fantastic step forward, because on the one hand we see it's a commitment. So it's really a strong commitment of politics and also the whole country to go green and to support this. And I think it's especially in the way that this ministry, this responsibility is, as we also discussed today, is a linking pin between all the different parties. So green and going sustainable is not only a communication thing. It starts with awareness, yes, but it needs to bring together all the parties. I think it's on a big scale like what we have in a project. So to bring all the parties together, start with a great concept, help on the execution, support also with regulations and principles. Barriers, but also supportings is exactly the objective of that ministry, and we're really happy, I can state with pride, that we do have such a concept, because it all starts with a commitment and the willingness to do, and the rest then definitely will follow.
If I can really, we have the same thing now in the private sector. So, we have different departments, we have R&D, etc. And we have a department of sustainability. So, and the goal of this department is not just to talk about the sustainability, is to challenge all other departments in order to bring real results in terms of product, in terms of technology, but also in terms of practices, and also in terms of collaboration with the government, with local authorities, etc.
So you have your Ministry of Green.
Exactly.
Well, it's getting on hotline actually with so many questions popping in. I feel an interesting one related to our governmental guests is from a subject matter expert from Schneider Group saying, hey, we are, of course, working very much on solutions to increase the power quality and also the energy efficiency for different buildings, but is it not about time how we, even as a private sector, can support the government to review the building norms? So the building norms maybe, I'm not saying outdated, but could we take the next steps in the building norms, and how could the private sector help there with the know-how we have?
I think it's the opportunity is there. If we are talking 5 years ago, we do the design, we construct the design, we choose the companies, and we finalize the building. But today, I think the public sector and manufacturers are more involved in the process from the design. I mean, before we start the building, we communicate with our top companies. If they have a new concept, we are willing to pay for the proof of concept in one of our buildings. So I think the area of opportunities is open. Today, the government is more open to listen to the ideas from the private sectors. After all, they do have the labs. They do have the experiments. If they can prove the numbers, I'll be more than happy to invest in it if I'm responsible for the government building. So the opportunity is there. So anyone have something new, please come to us. The door is open. Not only us as an engineers, even our top management or the ministers or the undersecretary, they all are willing to listen to the new idea and to put it into the implementation stage for sure.
Final question from, again, online. It's actually referred to Mr. Filippo Lodi from UN Studios. We learned that UN Studios is a networked environment, right, where different leading experts in the domain are working together across the globe, across different cities, to take the next steps in the things you already penciled during your keynote. Now, how can this networked environment also be a knowledge-sharing platform, because you're doing also a lot of projects for different cities, municipalities, governments, that we can connect those cities, municipalities, governments, and inspire each other? Is it already happening, or can UN Studios be an enabler there?
Well, as a practice, we defined ourselves as a sort of knowledge-sharing partner. So the way that we collaborate is that we always try to bring in the different parties to the table and then bring our knowledge to those in order to kind of develop on new solutions. And that is, I think there are kind of ideas that we can learn from different sectors or different worlds, and we can apply them in a creative way to other sectors. So and I think that most of the time we kind of function as a bridge, and that bridge component is what is the value of sort of the kind of the creative sector into the building and the manufacturing. And one of the ideas that I can share about that, from kind of pitching on the kind of processes, is the idea of post-occupancy. And if we design buildings or cities, could we design them so that the process of those cities or those buildings is not finished when the building is finished? So can we design also the evaluation of how it is implemented? Yeah. And this is an idea that I'm sharing with you all, to see how could we create a level of optimizing that, as much as our digital technologies are updating every day.
Evolving, yeah.
Absolutely.
This would be a very nice sort of idea on how to share the knowledge on a specific project case without, let's say, concluding the exercise or the project when the project is finished. If that is carried on through, then everybody that was involved is benefiting of the understanding of how things are utilized. So not only in the initial phases where you construct and create idea, but also in the phase when things are utilized, operated, and maintained and repaired. And that knowledge would be great to be built in the processes of building today.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. You can only improve what you measure, and I think with digital technologies, we have everything in hand to actually measure this pretty easily, as long as it is planned and forecasted. Look, it's time to wrap up this fifth Leaders Roundtable. I would like to thank you all very much, and the audience and the remote audience, for the questions. You know, the government officials of UAE have said that the COP28 in Dubai, in a little bit less than 2 years from now, has to be a COP of solutions. You know, COP26, we had great resolution, but very, very clearly now the rubber hits the road. I think we've seen that there is still a lot to achieve, a lot of willingness, a lot of solutions, but an enormous work to be done. So we hope that before COP28 here in Dubai, we can have many more examples of sustainable, energy efficient, and collaboration between public and private. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. It was really, really fantastic to have these insights and those discussions. And as we said, we have so many ideas, so many opportunities, so many chances, but engaging together with you, having these insights, exchanging thoughts, and going creative is really, really amazing. So really like to take the opportunity to thank you all for your openness and to discuss. And it's so encouraging that we are on the same page and moving in the same direction on such an important topic as we discussed today. That's really fantastic. So thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you here, to host you. And I'm really looking forward now to touch base with you individually, take advantage of what we discussed, and continue really from here. So thank you really so much on behalf of TRILUX.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.